Welcome.
Hello and welcome to episode 106 of the OzLoL podcast. My name's Colossus. I am host, and this week we're going to be talking about World's semi-finals, as well as probably looking at some of the stuff that's going to appear in the patch, which is coming out overnight, patch 5.12. And we've got some excellent gents to help me with that. I've got Wombat.
G'day, guys.
We've got Pixie, who's waving his hands. Got jazz hands.
I got a really big cookie and I was still finishing my mouthful, like trying not to look like I was chewing.
That's that's what she said. Big mouthful. And we've got Smite.
Hello, I can't do the hand waving thing. So if I was stuck eating a cookie, I'd be screwed.
One of these days, you really need to get a webcam.
Yeah, I know.
And we've also got Victor.
Yeah, hi, it's me, Victor. I don't know why I've been demoted to last place in the vote, but
just this once.
It's alphabetical order.
For so long.
Why was Wombat first?
It's alphabetical order.
How was W before P, S, or V?
Because
what fucking alphabet do you learn in Dunedin?
I'm a benevolent but also fickle overlord, so I just do whatever the hell I want.
It's good because I've been last for the last few weeks, so I got a good promotion today.
Maybe I should start the show just by introducing all of you and then introducing myself last. Remember that for next week.
He generally gets to me pretty early on, I've noticed. Like, I tend to be around second, sometimes third.
It's probably because you're in the middle of the streaming thing, so I see you, like, you're right next to, your screen's right next to mine.
The
I think
reason
the very first stream I was on, I was last, and I ascended pretty quickly.
The reason we care so much, listeners, is because it depends how much we get paid. If you get introduced first, you get paid the most. And then...
Yeah.
Yep. I get paid the most. And well, actually, these guys, I just get more zeros added onto the amount I get paid compared to the rest of you. So you guys get about, it's slowly halved and then halved again and halved again until whoever gets last gets nothing. All right, anyway.
Because half of zero is still zero.
I know. It's yeah. That's why I don't mind adding more zeros to my paycheck. Anyway, you should join us on the Twitch channel so you can see Pixie's excellent jazz hands. It's twitch.tv/TFOS podcast. And also, if you subscribe to the channel or follow the channel, you can also get notifications about all other shows on the network. TFOS Proper, TFOS LCS Rundown, the Hearth of the Cards, the Forwards podcast, and also the TFOS RPG. So make sure you do that. And yeah, let's talk about Worlds, because Worlds happened. It's the semi-finals. We had SKT versus Origin and Coup versus Fnatic. China versus Europe. Spoilers.
Hey, what?
Europe lost badly.
Korea.
Yeah, 3-0 in both cases.
Yeah,
Korea versus Europe. China wasn't even in this.
No.
China were gone way before. China already lost in there versus Europe and versus Korea, but yeah, Europe versus Korea. I don't know. Like, there's been a lot of fallout already. A lot of people saying they're not going to watch World Finals. I am not as interested. I've heard a lot of people saying that they don't just want it to be LCK, like that's boring to them. I can't get behind that because I would have been so keen for an all-European final. So, like, the issue I have it isn't like, oh, it's just LCK all over again. The issue I have it is I'm just not behind either of these teams, honestly. It is that simple. Like, I have teams that I like. I have teams that I can kind of get behind. And it's not even because they've got terrible narratives. Like SKT, Return to the Kings, Coup Tigers. Like, the underdog's so underdoggy, the sponsor that gives them their namesake doesn't exist anymore. That company went insolvent, right? These are two really cool narratives, and I just can't get behind them. I honestly can't, and I don't know why, but I've lost a lot of enthusiasm for this world.
What?
Well,
I'm the opposite of you, man. These are the two best teams in the world.
Yeah.
Playing with awesome casters and awesome atmosphere, and everyone's going to be watching. Like, it is just going to be...
See, this is the thing that I was thinking about bringing up in the podcast. There are two types of people that like to watch Worlds, and we just saw examples of both, right? Wombat is someone who just wants to see the two absolute best teams play with the absolute best plays being made, casters, excellent players, best in the world. Great series coming along, like, and that's a fine opinion to have, and that's how Worlds should be designed anyway. Like, it should absolutely be the top two teams at the end of the day, and that's exactly how it should be. But the other type of people that like to watch Worlds are the people that they want to care who wins. They want to get behind a team and actually have suspense during the game. And I'm that type of viewer. Like, for example, I love watching Wildcard every year because I love watching the Oceanic team, because even if they do choke at the end every year, it's still really exciting watching them, and I actually care whether, you know, they win the team fight or they lose the team fight, and it puts suspense on every single game. And, you know, while it's not quite the same watching a European team, I still have that feeling. I still want them to beat Korea, because that's just something I want to see happen. I want to see a team beat Korea. And also, having European team Fnatic playing against the SKT Korean gods on European soil in the grand final of Worlds would have been one of the greatest atmospheres to have at the venue, and you would almost be able to hear that through the stream even. And, like, you know, that's why I'm that type of player. And I just want to finish this with, both opinions are fine, and, you know, each side has to understand that, you know, Worlds might be ruined for someone else just because it's, well, not ruined, but, you know, make it less interesting because it's an all-Korean final. But the other side has to understand why people will really enjoy that.
Look, you seem to think there are two sides here. You seem to think there are two sides here. But
watch as Victor reveals the third
Shut
side.
up. Shut up. I have firmly placed a camp in a third most different side of all of this. And this camp represents one thing. World Finals skins. And let me tell you something. I do not want another set of SK Telecom skins. I do not want another set of Fnatic skins or SSW skins or TK skins. I don't want any of that shit. I want some new skins. So, here we go. Coup Tigers hype train.
Cool.
See, I'm just disappointed that the lack of Europeans showing up is disappointing me, because that means there's no French people playing in a German arena, and the amount of laughs you could have with Germans making fun of French, there's just a rich seam of comedy there. Well, let's talk about the games themselves. Like, what did you guys think of the performances? Was this, because I actually didn't get a chance to watch because I was away for the weekend. Maybe to explain for the benefit of those who didn't watch, was it just a complete drubbing? Was there any did we see anything in those finals which gives us an indication of what we might see in the actual final, or was it just they were so outclassed in every single possible way there was just no real insight into?
Okay, I'll jump in here with the
just a quick clarification.
I think there's a lot to say about it.
Both sets went 3-0.
Yeah.
Okay. That tells a story that's a little bit different to what actually happened, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to, try and hide anything. These games, the series were stomps overall, but the first games in each series, I'll start off with Origin versus SKT, because that's the most surprising one. Origin actually held, I think at one point, a 6,000-7,000 gold lead against SK Telecom. They looked great. It's surprising that, well, actually, I guess against SKT, it's not too surprising that you throw against them, but it's just, it kind of, it was the first time in the entire tournament, I think, that SKT were playing from behind. And
first time they lost a second tier turret. There was I think a couple of buff control stats. It was the first time something like that had happened to them.
It's also the first time they were playing against a good team.
Yes, exactly. I was about to say, I think part of that is because the previous teams they played against, excluding EDG, weren't
Which is why they ran Easy Hoon, by the way. If you know SKT, you know they run Easy Hoon in their harder games, because Easy Hoon's a much less selfish player than Faker. Faker they just run for their stomp games to get them done quick. Easy Hoon they'll run so he can pick up like Azir and get the mad wall plays or the mad Orianna ults and all that sort of shit. That's what they run Easy Hoon for.
He's also got like a more specialized champion pool. Like Faker can play almost any champion he wants in mid lane, but Easy Hoon can do a few of them, but better than Faker.
And I think they just swap between the two to throw the opposing mid laner off as well.
I think that's also fair. I have to say, and I reckon we should address this a little bit later, because the whole series did actually give me some qualms about swapping in players between matches. It's not something I'm particularly fond of in League, but moving away from that, I would say if you compared the two European teams, Origin had a better showing. I actually think Fnatic is, in terms of just the team, is actually the better team. It was actually interesting. There was an interview done with Daylor about Fnatic, and he just said, yeah, mentally they just crumbled. They couldn't keep it up. They'd been at a mental peak for too long, and they just didn't show up mentally at all. And that really, really showed. I even think Fnatic on their best day versus Ku on their best day would have been a 3-0 in the other direction. But at the same time, you know, if mentally you don't have the fortitude to get all the way through the LCS, all the way through groups, and then past the semi-final, then yes, you are not good enough to be among the, you know, in the final. Like, there's no two ways about that. I find the whole thing kind of hard to look at, because I think at the end of the day, the Europeans just didn't have as strong a mental game. I think Origin had a weaker mental game within a series. You could definitely see after the first game that looked so good. After that, some of their players were just making some really basic mistakes that they haven't made for months, you know, that they haven't made since before they were in the challenger scene, really. And I'm not going to name names, but, you know, there were some obvious ones there. And then Fnatic looked like they didn't show up mentally at all. It wasn't that, you know, they lost their fortitude as the series went on.
No, I think you got to back that up. I don't think you can just say that. I think you needed to name names and the players.
Amazing. Could not cop it. I think Soaz started making some silly mistakes, definitely. I think Niels was maybe a bit too confident. Mithy had a couple of bad plays. Amazing was the worst in terms of his overall positioning, but it's unfair to just call him out independently when you can tell everyone was obviously a bit off mentally. And it's hard to say that this one person was the worst, because for all we know, it could have actually been that he was the one trying to keep it together, and the frustration at other people not quite gelling was what was causing him to play a bit worse. Who knows? Like, who really knows what went on in the comms during the game?
Their communication was definitely weaker than it should have been. You can tell from that that very mumbled jumbled tower dive they did up in the top lane that really threw it hard for them.
Yeah.
The binding was landed through the big thick wall, and then Soaz backed off, and Morgana backed off, but Amazing went in on Rek'Sai anyway and got shit stomped, and he died. And like I've been saying, I was tweeting all that night, holy shit, Amazing is just a throwing machine. This dude is programmed for one function, and I swear it's just throwing the #1 most important fucking game. He did it in 2014 against Samsung White. He threw the game there as well. This dude just keeps in games. I hate him. He annoys me.
Oh no, I have to say in defense of him, that is true, but he did improve a lot. He still crumbled at one point. It just happened to be the next game onwards. And Fnatic this season looks better than TSM did last season, I would say.
Right. Are you talking about Fnatic or Origin, Pixie?
Origin.
Sorry, Origin. Yeah, I'm talking about Origin. Sorry, my apologies. I think it's fair to say Origin have not peaked. I think Amazing has learned a lot, and he definitely doesn't seem like the type to give up. Like, if you could have that throw that happened last year and then still decide you're going to go back and play professional League of Legends again, like, you've got a thick skin. You know, you've got some gonads. So I'm still keen to see more of Amazing, despite how that series went.
But he's a good player. I hate it because I expect better of him. Expect better of him in these situations. Like, Amazing, why did you do that? Why did you go in this situation as Jarvan last year? Why did you not look at what your teammates were doing? Yes, you're half fucking blind when you play Rek'Sai, but you can still see where your teammates are standing. You can see that this person's backing off, this person isn't going. Regardless of what's being said, you can make your own judgment call. I shouldn't go in there. That's a dumb thing to do right now.
I think a big point about these
I think
Europeans...
the heat of the moment, it's a bit trickier than that. But yes, in theory, yes, you're dead right, Victor.
I think the big point that just told the whole story of these series is that European teams, and just LCS teams in general, are just not used to best of fives, especially international best of fives. And it really showed because, especially in the Fnatic series, which I was the most emotionally invested in, I was watching Hooney's cam, and every time he died, like it progressed. You know, slowly. First time he died, he was like, "Oh yeah, all right, I died," and then as it went on and on, he just more hands and face, looking more and more upset, and just I think by the third game when he died really early on in hands, he just looked absolutely crushed, and you just knew that game was not going anywhere near Fnatic's favor, and that's just kind of what happened to both European teams. They just emotionally couldn't handle, and it is kind of what Daylor said. He made up a lot of excuses in his interview, I think, but he was definitely right there that the European teams just could not emotionally handle it like the Korean teams. That said, Korea stepped up in the semis as well. Ku Tigers did absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I actually think, I mean, what do you guys think about this? But I feel like Origin did better against SKT than Fnatic did against Coup.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%, yeah. I would say that. They nearly did it too. That's the thing. They nearly did it, and I maintain that actually had that first game fallen Origin's way, I actually think SKT would have tilted really quickly.
No, I don't agree.
I don't know. Like if they were going to tilt, it would have been then.
It's Korean teams. I mean, if you look back to 2014 when Cloud9 come out swinging really hard against Samsung Blue, and then Samsung Blue just bounced back because they have that sort of mental fortitude about them. I don't really know what SKT are like, but you know, when you're expecting to be the best team, sometimes they don't tilt that bad. Sometimes they do. I prefer to take the crumbs approach of things, and that is to not factor in mental states into calling how a game or a series would go.
You shouldn't do it into calling, but you should definitely take it into account. Say like this can happen. Although the only time you can just definitively say that this team, like their emotional state's not going to affect it, is when it's Korea, because they just don't tilt.
Yeah, I want to say about Origin, the 3-0 to me was very deceptive because, like, while I didn't watch the final game because I fell asleep, but I find it very deceptive because you see 3-0 and you go, oh my god, Origin got shit stomped. Like, if you didn't watch those games, you think, Origin, you just got the floor wiped with you, SK Telecom come with a broomstick, shoved it up your ass, and wiped the floor with you.
Yeah.
And they just used you like a mop. But if you actually watch those games,
it wasn't quite like that.
Origin come out swinging hard, and they looked like very close games throughout the early stages of mid-game in particular, which is where SKT is supposed to be their most dominant in the Faker lineup in particular. That's where they're winning games. You know, they were averaging 20 to 25-minute games or something like that throughout groups and quarters.
I know. I think that actually links into part of what frustrates me with this final as well. Because Wombat, you mentioned that you're keen to see the two best teams in the world right now duke it out against one another, and I think one of the struggles I'm having is I legitimately don't think that these are the two best teams in the world. I think SKT absolutely deserves to be there. I think, like I said, you know, if the team didn't have the mental fortitude to make it all the way there, then arguably no, they are not among the best teams in the world. But I feel like had it been Fnatic SKT, even Origin SKT, I feel like it would have been more exciting matches, and that's because maybe I'm biased. I probably am.
It sounds biased to me.
But that is certainly my feeling. I feel like Coup SKT isn't going to be anywhere near as exciting as even Fnatic SKT would have been.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I would prefer, from a excitement perspective, to watch Chiefs versus Fnatic. That would be my favorite World Finals.
Yeah, that would be pretty amazing.
I love getting invested in Chiefs, but I mean, come on, you gotta be realistic.
My mind. If that happened, I would be totally losing my mind. But the two best teams in the World Championship Finals, I feel like they're probably the two best teams in the world. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a tautology, it's to basically say like the teams in the final are the best teams in the world. Like if somebody else could do it, they would have done it. And you can't like this is not sort of, you know, you got to live in reality, which is if you don't show up and perform, you're not that good. You know, there's no sort of room for people who theoretically have the potential but don't actually pull it off. So
I don't know about you guys, but I think
share Carrot's opinion. I'm a strong believer in you are only as good as your live performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that. I mean, all of us here, you know, we're people who are passionate about esports, and with passion comes highs and lows, and an investment that goes beyond you know, rational ambivalence. And I think that, you know, that's certainly something that affects what I do and say when I'm talking about esports as well, because I have a certain emotional investment. But yeah, I would absolutely agree with you guys. I think my disappointment will be complete, though, if the finals are 3-0, especially in favor of SKT. If it's a 3-0 in favor of Coup, then it's not a disappointment at all. That's fucking awesome, I'll be honest. That is just personally my opinion. I'd be disappointed if any other team had made it to the final and SKT 3-0'd them. I would find that to be a disappointing resolution.
Oh, fair enough.
And,
I want a 5-game finale. That'd be ideal.
Shit, I just want
think
4 games, man. I'd be happy with what we had last year with Starhorn Royal Club, you know? Like, they take one off and look like they can take another, and then they don't. Like, I'd be happy with that, man.
One thing that really gets me annoyed is when I'm like, I'm talking about, you know, why I'd be so excited to see, say, Fnatic play against SKT. Like, I'd be more invested in that than Coup. And then people say, well, Fnatic would just get completely stomped by SKT, so there's no point. Well, that's not the reason why I would be excited. Like, realistically, from like an actual point of view, yeah, they probably would, but the chance that they wouldn't, even if it's like 0.1% of them taking a game off SKT, I'd still be more invested in it than seeing Coup take a game off of SKT. That said, I'm still going to be rooting for Coup, because Coup. But
We like our underdogs here in OCE, don't we?
I'm always for the underdog story. But also got to join that third camp with Victor as well. I'd love to see some Coup Tiger skins.
Yep.
I reckon there's more you can do with Coup Tiger skins. You get SKT skins, you're locked into the same theme you've already got. Coup Tigers. Now, fucking when they were the GE Tigers, they had the fucking, they were coming in with like cat ears on, and there was that one time where they come rising from under the stage and their arms were up in the air, and I was like, holy
Weren't
shit.
they bears?
Right,
Weren't
you
they
know what
bears?
You could dress those fucking champions
I don't
up
think they were
in
tigers. They were
force skins,
bears.
like wearing Freeze's Freeze's army's official like
I feel like there might be copyright there.
armor and shit.
Just a little- You know what my full tinfoil hat theory though is, right? And this would be the funniest thing. Like, I can't imagine the salt. It would be too great for any of us to handle, right? What if SKT win, and instead of doing another set of skins, they just do chroma packs for the ones that exist? Can you imagine?
That would be
the
amazing.
Imagine how annoyed, like,
devastation among the community.
No,
there was a community. Imagine the devastation on the guys on the team that weren't there in season 3. Oh, cool! I finally get a skin designed after me. What do you mean? You're just reskinning that other guy's skin?
I want to just watch
Or
Reddit,
Easy,
just
who
like
doesn't get his SKT as you.
I just like to watch like the League of Legends subreddit, just like you just watch it and it's like slowly vibrating at a subatomic level and just like increases and increases until just this mushroom cloud in the internet.
Reddit
Awesome.
servers like actually explode.
Yeah. All right. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to say about the semi-finals?
La baguette.
Yeah.
Semi-finals. As disappointed as I was at the European loss, the EU eulogy was absolutely beautiful by Monty.
And I think it has to be said, this is the best showing the West has had, like, since arguably season 1. You could possibly say.
Where it was just
more
the
so.
West.
Yeah, exactly. Like, certainly in the last 2 years, with some really dominant Korean teams in the World Finals or in Worlds as a whole, this is the best showing that the West and arguably Europe, and arguably the West as a whole have had. As much as the rest of the West totally shat in group stages.
The problem is, it's going to be the best shot we have at taking down Korea ever. Because the whole Korean exodus, the way the patch was designed for Worlds, there's never going to be a better time to take down Korea, and we end up with an all-Korean final, which kind of says something about the future of esports or League of Legends.
I would disagree with that. I disagree with that because I'll be honest, Riot as a business, esports is something to put a ton of investment into. If they think that that people are going to stop watching esports or they're going to lose viewership because Korea keeps winning,
I'm
they
not
will
saying
do
that.
things. I know, but I'm saying they will do things that not give the other teams a leg up or something, but they will try and do things that they feel level the playing fields, because it isn't a level playing field. The different regions have totally different structures.
Well,
So
yeah.
I'm not saying that Riot's going to restructure level at all, but Riot would do that. Like, Riot would do that if they felt that Season 6 Worlds was going to be a Korean stomp again, because they don't want to lose viewership of all the people that don't give two craps about Korean teams.
Well,
Puts it-
I don't think
I
that's
don't
the
know.
case. If they did, it would be stupid as hell because there's no way you can level the playing field. It's just the reality of
Well,
esports in Korea. Like there's nothing, like it's not something that can be artificially created. Like it's the whole institutional framework around esports in Korea is a product of their culture and their physical infrastructure and their PC, like both the esports culture and the gaming culture, and the culture of young people in Korea. So it's something that you just can't replicate it. And I think trying to handicap other regions to match Korea would be foolish, because you just can't do it. Like,
I'm not saying like handicap, but it's like if people legitimately like if every analyst ever is sitting there going, make all the Western games best of threes instead of the best of ones, and Riot felt that seems like the sort of change that Riot would make if they felt like otherwise their competitive circuit was going to suffer. This is like a mad theory kind of thing. Like, this isn't like, oh yeah, this is happening. Riot are gonna shit stomp Korea just to make it funny for next year. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But I could definitely see Riot stepping in, or at the very least making some changes to how other competitive regions are handled, potentially even increasing further international tournaments. But I mean, Carrot, at the end of the day, you're dead right. Korea has the stronger esports culture, and it always has. And, for the time being, it's another 15 plus years before the other nations.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I reckon two things need to happen. The first thing is we need to start doing best ofs, because Korea just play more games because they do best ofs. Like, not even just this whole like, the strategy of developing your strategies in Champ Select by changing up the picks and banning certain champions. They just play more fucking competitive games as well. And also more international tournaments. What better way to improve yourselves than to play against better teams more often? So I think more international tournaments, or more like boot camping, or just scrimming against international teams, I think is really what you need to do.
At the end of the day, though,
I think, what Monty suggested was that if teams, like, he on some of his insights, so what he said on some of his insight, I think must have been this week. He said that if teams were serious about winning Worlds, they'd move to Korea.
Okay, two things. It was half a year ago, I think. And,
was it? Okay.
Yeah, region locking doesn't let you do that. You can't, because a team of 5 Europeans, for example, can't go to Korea and compete in LCK. You have to have at least 3 out of 5 Korean citizens.
Sure. Okay.
I also recommend, this is my doctor's... Yeah, so this is my doctor's orders, right? I recommend you take your Monty medicine with a big grain of salt. He is really smart, and he is right a lot of the time, but he does have a strong Korean bias, and he always will. And that's just the nature of, that's the reason he works in. I agree with him that Korea is strictly better.
To say that they're the best region, and that if you're serious about winning Worlds, you move to the best region in the world, is not, like, there's not, I mean, sure, Monty maybe is biased, but, like, even taking that into account, he's still right.
I think it's
biased for a reason.
I don't think it's true. I think he is completely correct. Korea is the strongest region in the world. But why would we say that when we look at rugby and go like, well, why doesn't the Argentinian team just move to New Zealand? Like, it's not like that. Like, it's not that simple. And B, you can be serious about winning Worlds and not move to a different region. Like, there are tons of regions, like Carrot. Like, if somebody offered you a pretty decent job that was a step up from what you have now, but it was in Norway, and you hate the cold, and you don't, you have a massive social network over here that you don't want to leave behind, and a whole bunch of other, like, it's not as cut and dry as, oh, they should just move. Like, I can be serious about a lot of things, but I might just not have the capacity to do it. I can still be as serious about it as I possibly can be from where I am, and I think it's never going to be as cut and dry as Monty actually sells.
Okay, so just to pick up on what you said about Argentina not moving to New Zealand. If you were an Argentinian rugby player and you wanted to to prove yourself the best, you probably wouldn't play in Argentina. You would probably play in whatever it is, whatever rugby league New Zealand plays in, or wherever the top New Zealand. Because maybe New Zealand itself is not big enough to support a huge thing, but it's like I said last week, we talked about international soccer. If you are one of the best soccer players in Australia or New Zealand, and you want to prove yourself the best, you don't play in the A-League. You play in the English Premier League. You play in Germany. You play in Spain. That's the reality of it, And
that's fair.
And if and even Brazilian players, like even South American players, still play in European leagues. So it's one of those things that, like, I think he's right in saying that if you want to give yourself the best opportunity to hone your skills, you have to play against the best. And the best currently as it is in Korea. And I think that is indisputable. Like, I don't think there's any region that really can match what they do because of their unique, the aspects of their culture that is unique. Like even I mean, I guess we get to see, but even somewhere like Japan, which isn't, I mean, there is a vast cultural gap, but in many ways there's a lot of similarities as well. From what I understand, they are not like Korea. Korea is unique in its specific culture and specific influence and opportunities, and yeah, I think region locking aside, which Riot could look at as a way. I actually think region locking is a bad idea. Like, I think players should be able to move around.
That would you'd have the opposite problem. Instead of like, oh, we can't go to Korea to train with the Koreans, we'd have the Koreans coming over here and destroying the LCS.
Awesome. That's
that's not awesome.
Nobody looks at Manchester United and says, nobody looks at Manchester United and says, oh, they're not from Manchester. What a shitty team. Everybody looks at Manchester or whatever the best British soccer team is, and they go, oh my gosh, I've got all these great players, and they play amazing soccer, and they prove themselves to the best repeatedly. Like, I think it would be the same. Like, you essentially want to take all that talent from Korea and you want to transplant it in North America and in Europe so that talent can make an impact and force players in these regions to get better. And that's what you want.
Happened with Cloud9. It's like exactly what happened with Cloud9 in Season 3. They raised the bar. Everyone had to meet that bar. And they did. And America had a better showing every year since Cloud9 appeared.
Yeah.
That has to be appreciated. I think you're dead right, Carrot, actually. That's a really good point.
So, yes, okay, in the short term...
Victor is so good to speak on.
Victor and Wombat, sorry. Go Victor and then Wombat.
I wanted to back up Carrot by saying that it's a thing that happens already. It used to happen, like when LMQ came to North America, or all the Korean talent was spreading out, and like people like Ryu were going to Europe and places like this because the Korean players thought that the Korean teams thought that if we go to a weaker region, we have a guaranteed chance at Worlds. But the problem with that was they would go down to weaker regions, stomp everyone, and as a result, they would technically get worse because they didn't have something better to step up to and challenge themselves. They didn't have a reason to get better. And so if they even did get to Worlds, they never got far. LMQ lost to OMG in the group stages, and they never went through in Season 4. So it's not a viable idea for people to go down, but going up, definitely. It's why the Chiefs can't get better than what the Chiefs already are unless we do more international stuff with the Chiefs, because where are the Chiefs going to go? They got nothing to step up to. They're already shit-stomping everyone, not dropping a single game for the entire season except for one minor fuck-up against the 4-0 that cost them the whole game.
From a spectator point of view, I don't want to tune into NALCS, EULCS, and just see 95% Korean players, even if they are representing that region for that season. It doesn't feel the same. And like, if you look at StarCraft, WCS this season, the finals that's going to be at BlizzCon, one entire side of the bracket, and I think it's 16, maybe 32 players, I think it's 16, one entire side of the bracket is Korean, and the other side, there's one player that's not Korean. And that is just... I don't want to see that happen in LoL.
Let's be straight. Let's be completely upfront. Even the native players are all Asian. Like, if you look at the OPL, half of them are Asian to begin with. So
would you call, but like, say you have an Asian guy in Australia. He's lived there.
That doesn't make them not Australian.
We're gonna get racist really quickly here.
No, I'm just like it's just dumb to say. Well,
what about second generation Asians? Like, honestly, I don't think this is a fair thing to enter into the discussion.
I think there's a difference. There's a difference between, say, Doublelift, who's lived in America for a lot of his life and is playing on the American team and represents America, than someone that I know just came from Korea to jump into the NALCS.
Well, like Last Boy who still barely speaks English.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, that pissed me off when, like, let's interview the American team. Oh, we need to translate.
Well then, is the solution then having other international competitions? I mean, let's take a look at sports again as an example, right?
Hey, this
the most loose geographical regions have stuff like the 5 nations, and we've got now the 4 nations for rugby over here with Argentina in it as well. Like, we could even have something like that, you know? Every so often, China, Korea, Europe, North America, just ham it out over a couple of months. We get a good chunk of international competition. Hell, the wildcard regions do something. We get, we get all the ones that, you know, are on our side of the wild card. They just ham it out. They just have it go at it. Like, Why not do that? Like, if region locking isn't going to work for various regions, so unregion locking isn't going to work, why not just go with the more international tournaments? Why open it up?
That's what
So
I
why
think.
not
I think it was Victor said it before. It's exactly right. We need
Yeah.
more international tournaments and more best ofs in our LCSs. Was you
Yeah,
Victor
the,
that said
the,
that,
the
right?
issue with that though.
I'm confused.
Hang on, I'm jumping.
Yeah, sorry,
in.
Wombat. Yeah, I'm interrupting. Okay, go on, Matt.
If we do unlock, I mean, if they did unlock the region, so you could have 5 Korean players, I think something they could do to fix it is what they do in soccer, where you have your World Cup is only people from their country of origin. So all of the soccer players that play soccer in Europe come back to Australia, and they are the Australian team. You know, even though they all play throughout the year wherever they can, they all play for Australia. So, but then you would have it'd be similar to a wild card, but it's just like state of
Yeah,
origin.
but okay.
Yeah.
So then what happens? Like you've got. How do you qualify for Worlds, for example? If the Korean teams come over here and, like, say they get top 4, or top 2 in both NA and EU LCS, and where we want to send an actual American and European team to Worlds. What do we take our 3rd and 4th and 5th teams and send them to Worlds?
Yeah, I
Like,
think
we just
on the head there.
we don't. It's like wild card. It's a fresh team that has to learn. They've got like a month worth of boot camping where they can practice together and before the tournament.
I mean,
So
I think,
sending
okay,
some
I don't
team
think. I'll be honest. I don't think that would be half as exciting to watch. I get pumped when CLG go to Worlds because I like CLG. I get pumped when my local rugby team plays rugby because it's my local rugby team. I know them. I've watched them play.
But you
I
just
think
said
it's
two
really cool when they
opposite
make it
things.
fun. But I just like the thing is,
CLG
it's more about getting behind the teams. Like if we just slap a team together, what we're basically doing is we're giving all of the viewership a month to say, all right, pick one, get behind someone, please.
Yeah.
We want viewers. Like I don't think
Have
it's.
you watched the
okay.
World Cup? Have
yeah,
you watched
but
the
okay.
World
So
Cup?
the thing is about the World Cup though
Yeah,
is
but that's sport.
is there's
This is e-sport.
I mean,
There's-
firstly there's lots of national team games across the year. Secondly, there's lots of competitions for teams which don't involve national teams. So you've still got UEFA Champions or whatever. Like you got all the other competitions. What I wanted to bring up next was like if you look at how people react to both esports and sports with international players, is no one gives a crap if they're international. Like, do you think there's any TSM fan out there who actually gives a crap that they didn't fire Bjergsen after Worlds? People love Bjergsen. Okay, sure. Maybe there's a potential that he's got white skin, they don't care. But he's Danish or whatever. And nobody cares.
Or whatever.
If Cristiano Ronaldo came to play for Perth Glory in the A-League, I don't think there'd be a single Glory fan who'd give a crap that the guy's from Portugal. The reality is people they barrack for their team. It's completely irrational. Like people just go for the team they like, and they'll support the people if the players are good enough. So I actually think that it's not a big deal that all these local players might get crowded out. In reality, by being brought into an environment which is more competitive, it pushes them to play harder, and actually it raises the bar across the board, and that's what I want to see.
I think there's a limit though. Like imagine
So,
if when
I always say,
okay, Victor.
He's squirming.
He's just
Go, Victor.
he's muted.
Oh no, he's muted.
We can't
We're gonna mime.
He's
Where's mime?
gonna sign it.
He's
He's
gonna
gonna sign
mime.
it to us.
We can't hear you.
3 words. Your microphone's died. He's lost it.
All right.
Oh, he's so upset.
Oh, there we go.
The internet, it's terrible. Internet is terrible. I wanted to say that this is more a philosophy than anything else, but we're bringing the best players down to North America and Europe and all these players from Korea. We're assuming they're all from Korea. They're all going to be grinding in the solo queue. And while at first, the first couple years, yeah, okay, say in Smite's worst case scenario, every single player in the NALCS is now Korean, because apparently Korea has infinite amount of talent that they can just pump it into everywhere. Eventually, through solo queue, whether it's 2 years later or 3 years later, the American players will have gotten better themselves, because in solo queue or just as being subs and scrimming and all this, eventually they will get better as well, and it will just balance out. And then you will have North American players back in the LCS, because this stigma of Korean players being the best of the best will wear off in in regions outside Korea, because in Korea they have something to step up to. Everyone's got to step up to Faker or SK Telecom or Samsung Y, whoever's the best team there. But when they come down, they have nothing to step up to. They'll stay the same, and everyone else will get better. Eventually, in the OPL, Legacy and Direwolves and maybe even Immunity and all these teams will be just as good as the Chiefs. And when that happens, our Chiefs team will start getting better as well.
Yeah.
It's just how it works, because everyone has something to improve to.
Okay.
I agree with
Pixie
you,
gets
Victor.
final word, and then we're going to move on.
I agree with you, Victor. The only issue is 3 years is a really long time in esports. Like it's a cripplingly long time. And if you have 2-3 years where people just care a little bit less, then when we get to year 4 and it starts to even out, it might just never reach its peak again. And I think that's part of why Riot is against it as well. Like, I hate sounding real mercenary about it, like Rito only cares about my money. But Riot Games are a business, and they're actually a business that care more about their esports and competitive scene than a lot of other games developers do, much to their credit. And I think if our conversation here has showed anything, between the 5 of us, 5 people really passionate about esports who, at the very least, like to think we know a lot about it, can't fucking agree. We have no idea what the right answer is. We have no fucking clue. We've just spent our entire hour talking about what the solution is, and we don't know what it is, right?
I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Like you think Riot maybe know a little bit better, but that's the thing. They don't want to go and do anything rash, and I think they're smart to take their time. And I definitely believe that when Riot make a call, if they make one, it is going to be the healthiest one. I've yet to see them make like really big crippling mistakes. They've made some, they've learned from it. They're a smart company. I honestly believe that. And personally, I'm excited for the future of esports as a whole. Even if League of Legends isn't in it in 5 years' time, I love my esports. I will watch the final. I'm not going to say no altogether just because I'm salty about what happened in the semis. And I think there will always be a passion that every esports developer can tap into.
All right.
So harrowing.
Yeah, let's move on. Just Regadius in the Twitch chat suggested us reading an article about owners controlling teams. We're not going to talk about that because we're not really an LCS podcast, and unless they're going to do it in the OPL, we're not going to bother really talking about it. So, but listen to the LCS rundown because they'll talk about it. All right, harrowing. So that's coming up in the next patch, which comes out tomorrow morning. So Thursday morning. Got some new skins, got some bios, got some story. Obviously there'll be icons as well, presumably. Anybody got any particular thoughts?
I love the new way they're doing lore. Just the stories that they're bringing out are just so excellent to read. They're a bit long, I'll give them that. Like when I read the build journal, I think I read it all at once. It was a bit long, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I really enjoyed the story that they've released so far, and it's actually quite graphic as well. Like, I mean, I'll try not to spoil anything, but the Thresh part of the story was pretty. Get a little bit of insight into how Thresh deals with his victims, and it's really great.
They've updated the lore on 5 champions, and each of them is like, a couple of pages. Like, if it was half of one of these champions, so a 10th of the size, I would probably read it all. Like, it's just there's just too much for someone that plays the game for the game. I'm not going to get around all this.
You've come out and said that you don't really care about lore.
Yeah, sure.
But the thing is, that's actually what I think is kind of cool, because Riot also know that there are some people that aren't ever really going to bother too much with the lore, unless it's super short, and they aren't really the people they write the lore for, People don't write novels for poetry readers, and there are people who have been, calling for lore for a while, and there have been people that don't really care, and there's not really enough people in the third camp saying, no, I only want small amounts of lore. I think Riot have done a really cool thing here,
They do have small amounts of lore as well. There's still like the snippets on the website.
Well, yeah, exactly.
No, that's fair enough.
The only thing I have to comment, and I think this is just a bit of bias because I'm a writer. They have hired some very talented people. I don't think they hired the most talented people they could have, but at the same time, the lore is extra and it's really, really cool. Like, I have no complaints in reality. So, and it's like they can't exactly go and hire like John Green to come and write their lore,
One thing that's a bit of a letdown though is
is
the skins though. The skins this year for Harrowing are a little bit disappointing.
You reckon?
They
Well, I mean, they're They're good skins, I guess, but there's only 3 of them. 2 of them are the same theme, and they don't really excite me that much. Zombie Nuna's kind of cool. The Slayer theme is kind of cool, but it's not like, I mean, look at it compared to like last year or the year before. You got like pretty awesome actual Halloween costumes.
I think you were looking more for the haunted Maokai and headless Hecarim type skins.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
and
I see.
I'm a bit disappointed. I agree. I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't get something similar. I think the people versus zombies thing. First of all, I think it's a shtick that we're getting a little bit tired of. It's only the few that do it really well that still get much attention. And second of all, I think the biggest gripe I have is I don't feel much personality in them. I don't feel, Slayer Jinx doesn't really feel much different to normal Jinx. It's a ramshackle psychopath with guns.
I will agree with that. Yeah.
Slayer Pant though is really cool. He's got like a chainsaw and everything like that. That's a really cool theme. But I think while personality wise it fits Jinx, it's not different enough.
Yeah, Firecracker Jinx was sweet. Like that was really cool. But Slayer Jinx is, and that's the thing, when we're getting event specific skins. And presumably a lot of work has gone into them. I think it's a bit disappointing when the skin doesn't feel like it has much character, especially when you compare it to something like Zombie Brand. Like, they read it as voice acting. He says that, some say the world will end.
Well, he was also a legendary skin, so it's not exactly a fair comparison.
Yeah, but it certainly feels like, I just think Jinx was maybe the wrong choice for that brand of skin.
Yeah. I mean,
it does look like Jinx.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but it doesn't. I think you're right in saying it doesn't look that much different from the base skin. I think the Zombie Nunu is a good fit. I think the issues with Nunu and Panther just the fact that those models suck. Like they really need to update the models for both of them. And
although the animations for Zombie Nunu are pretty great. If you've had a look at them,
yeah.
Like, runs around all zombie-like, and even the voiceover is just.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Zombie Nunu is pretty cool. Like I would definitely say that. I think one of the other things is, let's get real, Nunu and Pantheon aren't seeing much play right now.
Yeah.
I think that does factor in at times. Like Haunting Maokai, like sweet Maokai suddenly had a big resurgence around that same time because of his stuff being changed. So we get to see a lot of that, and people are like, oh my god, a champion I love playing who also just got this cool new skin. Whereas I think even the Pantheon mains will be like, maybe I'll stick with Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Slayer is such an amazing skin, though. It's really hard to go past it. Can't wait. Anyway, I just can't wait to the redo Pantheon so I can see how good it will be. Because even on a crappily animated, crappy looking model, it still looks absolutely baller. So
yeah.
There's actually a surprising amount of detail in it as well. Like the shield being like a salvage sign. His actually does feel like a bit of a ramshackle survivor of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
The more you look at it, the cooler it gets.
One thing that the guys who don't really care about lore will actually like that's coming out of the story is that we got a glimpse into what a lot of people think is going to be the new champion, Alawi. And that is definitely how you pronounce it, confirmed by the writer on Twitter, Alawi. A big priestess of...
Riot Bacon Hawk, I think you will find.
I guess. But yeah, big... priestess of the bearded lady, a big gangplank kind of godlike figure. She's a priestess of that god, I guess. Really tall, but also quite not fat but wide, like kind of like a
Imposing.
female Braum almost.
Imposing. I think is the way to
imposing.
put it.
Weapon of choice, a big
Like Gwendolyn
stone
Christie.
spear with like a kind of stone, almost like a crystal on top. I think. Like we haven't seen any pictures. This is just like described in the story, but I think that's going to be a really cool champion archetype. Like it's got the priestess vibe to it, so there's going to be some kind of magic involved, I imagine. But
Or even
also
this battle
being
priestess
massive
skill.
and huge and having a spear makes me think that there's going to be a lot of brawling going on with that champion too.
Yeah,
And
and Riot
the other cool thing is her and Gangplank used to bang.
Yeah, Riot have said that they planned on releasing another champion after Kindred before the end of the year. So we might not see it until maybe December, but that's still before the end of the year. And awesome, I'm pumped. I love it when a new champion comes out.
The other cool thing, which this could mean, because one of the issues you have at the moment is League of Legends is very, they couldn't do a League of Legends RPG because there's just so little to go off. What we could be starting to see is actually characters that are not playable characters in the storyline, which means they're actually looking to expand things into sort of, you look at what Blizzard do. There's lots of novels. There's all sorts of stuff going on. that's beyond the games. We don't really have that with League of Legends yet. I presume they're going to work towards it. I mean, they hired Graham McNeil, who's written about 400 million books for Games Workshop. You know, that guy's so prolific. You're not going to hire him unless they're going to actually churn out a lot of stuff. So
I don't think Alawi is going to be just an NPC though. It's I mean, they data mined the champion select quote in like Portuguese or something. So
similar to what happened with Echo, I believe, before his release.
Okay.
Yeah, that happened too. And also, like, it's just such a great setup. Like, you release the story, and then suddenly there's this new character coming in. They're putting a little bit more effort into it. Have a bit of backstory with the Gangplank thing. And if you live under a rock and you don't check Surrender at 20, you don't know that this is definitely the new champion. Then you're sort of like, oh, who's this champion? Oh, who's this character? Like, it's going to be a new champion, and then the story is going to get released over the harrowing of events, and you're going to learn more and more, and you're going to be like, okay, this is looking like a new champion. I'm getting pretty excited for this. I really hope this is a new champion. And then bang, at the end, it's going to be some kind of like Gangplank rework, Gangplank guide level amount of release. I'm kind of predicting that that's something that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think my last thought on the lore has to be I fucking love that they've decided to take the harrowing to Bilgewater. Not just because I think it's, it's two cool regions interacting, but what we've seen in the past, even when Riot had done the massive regional, lore overhauls and updates and all that, like when they did the Freljord and all that stuff, it was really cool. A lot of cool stuff went in with it, and then they just kind of left that. Okay, we've done Freljord. What's next? Whereas this is awesome. We've got Bilgewater. A bunch of stuff has just happened there. And if they just left it alone, we sort of go, okay, well, presumably it's stabilized over time. Cool, we can off-screen that. But no, they're taking a semi-unstable area lore-wise, and they're just going to chuck an event on it. Like, that's so sick. Like, imagine after the Freljord thing, they then did another lore event where Noxus went to war with Freljord. Like, that's what we're kind of getting. And I think Riot are going to start taking a much more living world approach to the... It's not just here's a bunch of regions so that we can conveniently pick themes, champions from them. This is a living world with different regions and things that interact with one another on a grand
And the cool thing
scale.
is as well, like, they're introducing characters into it that aren't even from Bilgewater or the Shadow Isles.
Yeah.
Olaf came out of, like, some Kraken's belly and is suddenly just in the story. And I'm like, I'm pretty interested to see what role he's going to play in this, because you've got the Thresh Lucian thing that's going to go on. There's Misfortune's probably going to learn that Gangplank's still alive, and then Olaf's just there. What's going on there? I want to know what happens.
Yeah.
How's Gangplank still alive?
Oh, dude.
Oh my god. Okay. So if you didn't follow the Bilgewater thing, right? His ship got blown apart by Misfortune, Captain Fortune. He landed in the ocean, got out alive, and went to see his pirate medic guy, and the guy's like, I can't save your hand, and he ends up getting a robot hand instead, and that's why you see in the splash art he's like crushing an orange with his robot hand. And Misfortune assumed that because he was on the ship, it exploded, that he was dead, but she doesn't know that he's dead yet, that he's alive.
Yeah, it's cool, and there's they definitely made real a sense of actual fallout from that action as well, which is quite cool. Which I don't know, I quite like. And we've already seen champions like some of the Shadow Isle champions like Callista interacting a little bit with Bilgewater. I don't know if you guys remember her sort of Spear of Vengeance, kind of a mini cinematic. She was chasing someone through what looked a lot like Bilgewater. I think Riot are just making a pretty Riot are making a concerted move towards that sort of thing. The thing I am so keen for though, because they're doing that, is I fully expect a Tom Kench reference in every single story. He says, all the world's a river, ain't nowhere I ain't been, and nowhere I can't go again, so I want him to be fucking everywhere.
I was so disappointed in the Bilgewater thing when Twisted Fate and Graves were drowning or whatever, and I was so expecting Tom Kench to come in and be like, "Get my belly, I'm gonna save you," and then it didn't happen. Like they had this little moment where like, "Oh, we're friends again." No, I wanted Tom Kench to come and save them, eat one of them. I wanted it to be like almost like the gambler thing, where TF is the gambler, because that's Tom Kench's lore. And TF comes in and he's like, "I'm a gambler, come on, save me," and then. And then he becomes in debt to Tom Kench, and Twisted Fate's probably the only guy who can cheat Tom Kench.
It would be
Sorry, I'm invested in the lore. I love it.
No, it's good.
That's exciting.
I'm invested in it.
They should make a movie and I'll watch it, but I'm not reading the lore.
League of Legends 2018, I believe.
Yeah.
Could happen. Could absolutely happen.
It'll happen 5 years after the Warcraft movie.
Although, imagine being the guy working on the movie. You'd be like, all right, cool. So we finally got like all 130 characters somewhere involved in the movie, and then they release a new one. And you're like, fuck. Where am I gonna put this one?
They just do like a bunch of cinematics, just an hour and a half of 5-minute cinematics. They just focus on like 5 champs at a time.
Also, we're kind of due for a new cinematic, so I'm expecting.
Yeah, actually, I was actually thinking the same thing. Yeah, that would be good.
I wonder, do you think they'll have enough time to like release all of the parts of the harrowing story thing, and then have it culminate on Worlds with the new cinematic?
Well, that's what I actually, now that you mention it, I actually think that's what will, maybe that will be what happens at the end. Like, because I don't think the cinematic is actually done by Riot. I think they actually contracted the animation side of things out to another studio. Yeah. So it's quite possible that they wrote the story ages back. Somebody else has been working on it, and basically the final part will be, since it would totally fit within, you know, like with what they did with the New Dawn, which was, you know, kind of making it less like a replication of the game and more like its own little sort of story.
Really? I thought a New Dawn was the biggest example of an actual in-game. You had 5 champions playing against 5 champions.
Well, sure, but they actually took it away from let's have minions. You know, let's have like some of the other I mean, I guess prior to they had the dual one, the one with Twisted Fate and Fiddle and all that. But if you go back to the original ones, they're all like replications of or attempted replications of the game. And they all looked terrible.
I don't think we're considering those. So, a long time ago, okay.
Well, back in the day, I'm sure they were cool. But, yeah, no, I think... I
would be real keen for, like, a Forward Unto Dawn short movie.
Yeah,
you guys
maybe.
see Forward Unto Dawn? The Halo movie?
No,
I haven't seen it.
It was actually half decent. I mean, like, B-grade movie. But for a Halo fan, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect they won't really try it until they've... I think it'll be a bit like Valve. They won't do it until they know they've got a solid idea.
Yeah, I feel like they could step up. They could make it 15-minute cinematic, and then they could make a...
Yeah, that's it.
What I mean?
Yeah.
I think Riot have become a much more cautious company over the last few years. I mean, we even see that reflected in when they say what they say. You know,
Yeah.
And I think they have, you know, all kinds of good reasons to. And I've always been a fan of games developers that lean on the cautious side, because I've tended to find that they're what does come out from them is really, really awesome.
Well, it's what happened to Blizzard over the years.
Yeah.
Just through the communication wise, where people are like, Blizzard, you don't talk to your player base anymore. And they're like, that's because every time we do talk and talk about some kind of feature, you're like, you promised us a dance studio, Blizzard, where is it?
Yeah.
I'm still waiting.
They're taking a page out of Games Workshop's, consumer strategy, which is don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
Riot aren't there yet, though. They still communicate with their fan base.
Sure.
Massively, which is excellent.
Yeah. I think they try and find a happy middle ground. I think it's something you'll never get perfect, and I think Riot put a lot more time and energy into it than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything else to say about lore or semis. Or that's a lie. I have a lot more to say about it, but we're over time.
Yeah, I think we're about to run out of time. The only thing I was going to add was, I think, you think how long it's taken them to get these bios up? Like, when did bios disappear? I think sometime in season 3?
4, yeah.
End of season 3. And it's been like nearly 2 years, so they're gonna get there. But I guess if they've started to hire a lot more people, like serious writers, like not just like getting some interns who maybe have done a blog, like they're actually hiring writers. Like it's clear they're gonna be a bit more serious about it. So anyway, all right. Well, I think that probably covers all that we have to say at this point on those. Patch 5.12 will be out next week, so we'll definitely be talking about the changes to Cho'Gath and Mordekaiser, because they're pretty
not the
interesting.
whole patch notes.
But not a whole patch notes. It's a very short patch.
That is the patch notes.
But we'll be talking about World's Final. Yeah. 8 p.m. for me, you suckers. West Coast rules.
Hey man,
East Coast rules.
Works perfectly for me because World Cup's straight after Worlds.
Oh, really?
Rugby World Cup. I guess actually that applies to you too, because time zones.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm just going to an actual Halloween party. Does no one else have that plan?
No.
Well, I did until Riot put Worlds on Halloween.
Well, I guess in New Zealand you would be able to, because 2 a.m. is a pretty good time to wrap up a party and start a Worlds.
Exactly.
So go out and party.
Yeah, maybe if you had a venue to go to.
Yeah, I can't because I have a film shoot on like immediately after that, so I can't have a stupid weekend. But
fair enough. All right. I guess
rip
we'll
in
wrap it up
peace,
there.
Victor.
Yeah, rip in peace. See you, Vic. All right. Well, that's
even
it.
remark about that. We just left them.
Yeah. Hopefully he hasn't done something stupid with his audio. That would be bad. I would have issues with that. Anyway, all right. Well, we're done. So we'll be back again next week. Somebody's gonna have to do the Steve bit because Steve's not here. Neither is Vic.
Wombat, do it.
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey.
I'm sorry, Steve.